Nice to be here. Nice being here. Thank you so much.
That was Hound Dog. The first times you played Hound Dog, do you remember on national television? Do you remember how that was?
It was one of the big shows, and I think we did it in New York, actually. And one of them was a complete surprise because we were doing it, and we did it like we always do it before. And all of a sudden, he went into that blues indie. I don't know if we ever seen any tape on that or not.
Yeah.
We had no idea what to do. We just said, uh-oh, his pickup notes are slow. We better be slow. So, you know, that's the first time he ever pulled anything any different on us.
I was thinking, how come you started playing drums in the first place?
Well, I couldn't play anything else. That was the main reason, I guess. It was in high school, actually, the band. I was in the ROTC marching band and the concert band, and we just, you start from scratch, and you just keep going.
Is it true that you sat behind a curtain the first time you played with Elvis?
Yeah, that was the hayride, the Louisiana hayride down in Shreveport. It wasn't like a dark, dark black curtain. It was a sheer curtain, and you could still hear. They had a little monitor back there, and back then, the country artists didn't like drums, and you know, so you just had to stay out of their way. So I did, and I didn't have much to do. They just didn't like drums. And the reason for that, I'd tie them down. They couldn't sing like they wanted to sing because they had the singing meter and all that stuff, you know. They had to sing a little bit better than they normally would, and they'd rather sing on their own, you know.
You broued some pictures. This one is from the hayride.
That's from the hayride. It's yeah. That was one of them.
When would that be?
Probably 55 or 56, a couple of days ago.
Exactly 50 years ago, yeah. And this one?
That one, I have no earthly idea. I've looked at it, and I have no idea where it was taken. Someone sent it to me a couple of years ago.
But how come you became Elvis's drummer?
Well, it was at the hayride, actually, again. They had just gotten started, you know, and they wasn't making any money. And they was going over to Texas for 2 or 3 days, and he said, you want to go? I said, yeah, I'll go with you. So I went over there, and it worked out good. We come back to the hayride. And then we went over there again a few days later, and he said, well, we're going to go back to Memphis, DJ. We don't have nothing. We have absolutely no jobs. Nobody's called. He said, but, you know, if we ever get another date or two, would you go, with us? I said, yeah. I don't know, it was 8 or 10 days later. He called. He said, hey, we got 10 days back in Texas. You want to go? I said, sure, I will. Might as well go with you. And that's how it started. I just happened to be there, you know.
There's so much myth around Elvis, but what kind of a person was he?
He was
especially
probably
back then.
The nicest guy in the world. A big joker, loved to tell jokes and cut up with you and just have a good time, actually. I think in the later days he got a little bit more, you know, he had to do things correctly. You know, back then we didn't have to. Nobody was watching us like they did later on, you know. We just go and come as we pleased. And
you went touring in an old Cadillac?
Yeah, we had a Cadillac, but we kept it in good shape. We had to, or we'd be walking, you know. And, yeah, we had one car between me, Scotty, and Bill. And sometime he'd take Gene Smith with his cousin, Red West, or somebody would be in that car. So we were kind of cramped.
But I heard you made Elvis walk.
We did.
Once.
Well, I made him walk a lot of times.
Why?
Yeah. Well, after he got off the show, he was highly keyed up, just a nervous wreck, you know. So we'd stop at a hamburger joint, they'll call them way back then, on the outskirts of town. And we'd eat a hamburger and we'd say, well, let's walk down the road and get a little exercise, you know. So he'd get in the back seat and turn up the radio and just, you know, just keep on and on and on. So we'd walk him about a mile, and they'd pick us up as we went up. And he'd go right back, get in the car, boom, he's out like a light. We had to do that to protect our own self.
What was the last time you played with Elvis?
Well, the last thing we did was the 68 special, you know, with the black suit and all that stuff. And that was probably one of the better specials that he had. He looked good, he was singing good. I thought it was one of the better things he did in a long time.
Yeah. The last time you saw Elvis, when was that?
It's the late 70s, before he got really bad off and sick, you know, about the middle of the year. I'd go by and see him from time to time, you know, and see him. He looked good back then, early on, in the 70s, but then I'd read the papers, he was sick, and I'd read the papers in the hospital. So I really basically I didn't want to go by there. I didn't think, you know, a guy's sick, you don't want to have company fooling with you all day long, you know. So I just quit going.
But what have you been doing since the 70s?
Oh, boy. I've been on the road, doing these shows. I did some stuff with Paul McCartney, and I did some stuff with Ringo Starr, Ron Wood with the Stones, Charlie Watts, his band.
But now you're here in Sweden. Why?
Oh, we're going to do a tour starting the 24th down in South Sweden. And we'll be going to the 17th or 18th of April. So tell them, look in their paper and watch this television show, and they'll know where we're at. Or get on the internet,
Great.
DJFontana.com.
Tell me, what are you going to play now?
Oh, let me see. Lordy Miss Claudie.
Lordy Miss Claudie.
Yeah, I had to think about that myself. It's been 2 minutes. I lost complete control.
But that was one of Elvis's favorites, huh?
He loved that song. He loved the blues, actually. And he did a lot of blues if you listen to the albums. And I think some of his favorite things were the blues, but also like the gospel stuff, too,
Okay. Stage is yours. Thank you for coming.
Thank you so much. 1, 2...